moving here. Now, Arias, you have offices in a few countries, correct?
Yeah, we were established in 1942, and we grew. We started in El Salvador, and we went to all Central America and Panama. So we're in 6 countries, and we have 7 offices.
Okay, it's interesting that the President Bukele is the most popular leader in the world, and he's also the most popular leader in these other Latin American countries and Central American countries. And what do you attribute that to? Why is he so popular?
Well, he changed the way to communicate with the people. As you see, from day one, he was tweeting, letting everybody know what was going on. He lived the pandemic times, and everybody knew what was happening. So he has been very transparent.
So there's a level of transparency that...
I believe that made a huge change, that everybody knew what was going on.
Right. And of course, in 2021, he made Bitcoin legal tender, and that really made a fundamental shift. How did that change what was happening in the country?
Well, it's continuing to change. I would say that was a rough start. I think everybody was wondering what's going on in El Salvador, so we were on the spot from day one. And a lot of banks and in the legal system, you see that there's no knowledge about how it works, so there's fear. So having the program of, educating the new generations is the key, so that you understand what's going on and all the opportunities. And this government has had from day one the vision and the mission to make Bitcoin a total success, and that the ecosystem continues to grow and work. So we see the changes every day. We are having clients from all over the world making questions, and that's what's gonna make everything possible, that people are interested.
Right, and so the law firm is, of course, any law firm is bound by pretty strict regulations, and it's a lot of attention to detail to make sure things are legal. And with Bitcoin, it's such a new phenomenon. And so your traditional client base, are they now starting to get a little bit more Bitcoin friendly? And do you think that it would have a fundamental change? I guess the most obvious spot where Bitcoin, you see it, is in the property market. Is that where you see it?
Yes, in the property market. We have had some clients that have paid with Bitcoin. So the first question is, how do I do that? Because the regular banking system has not been accepting Bitcoin. You just for the payment of debt that you have with them, but not as in commercial transactions. So the first thing you're asked is, if I have Bitcoin, how do I do to buy this property? So you do have to help them. We have a great team of lawyers. 4 of them are in the field right now playing. Maria Lozano is the expert and has helped all the clients that have acquired property, and that they're very happy because at the end they paid half of what it was, when it started a couple of years ago, and now the real estate market is booming, and it continues to grow.
Right. So if you use Bitcoin as collateral, and it goes up by 100%, then your basis would be dropping by 50%.
And that's what it's the dream right now we have, and that we hope that in the next couple of months that option is going to be given by a new bank. As you see, Banco Azteca is here as sponsor, and there are other players in the market that are seeing the opportunity with this draft of law that President Bukele is working on, which will provide that alternative to give collateral, Bitcoin as collateral, and you get the money you want to invest now in real estate or in any other business, knowing that you keep the title on the Bitcoin, which is something that they want to, promote here.
Right, and so this idea of a Bitcoin bank, as it's called, this is being talked about in other countries. In the United States, for example, there's been an announcement from Cantor Fitzgerald, a Wall Street bank, and they want to get into this business. So El Salvador is looking to get into this business?
That's what it's right now, one of the projects. A lot of investment it's still not being able to flourish because of all these limitations in the traditional banks. So that's what the President Bukele saw as an opportunity to help the ecosystem. So we are hoping that in the first semester of this year, we're going to have the regulations to be able to promote this type of bank and bank alternatives so that everybody has these options.
Right. And so when you are hiring new people, and I guess with all this new business and with what's happening with security, right, firms like your firm, Arias, right, I would imagine you're expanding and hiring folks?
Well, because we're in 6 countries, we're able to use the talent of everyone. And I have clients that have been clients for 30 plus years. One of them is around here. And when Bitcoin was approved, we started talking about it, with everyone about Bitcoin, and he was a lover of Bitcoin. So at the end, there's a lot of clients that are in other businesses that right now are exploring new businesses with Bitcoin. So it's not necessarily that a lot of companies have to come, but the actual companies are seeing other opportunities as well. And our talent, it is really difficult to get good talent bilingual. In our office, if you come to work for us, you really have to be passionate and love your work, because we work during the weekends and whenever the client needs us. So it's hard in any law firm that has these expectations that clients are first and that you find a solution anytime, any day, any hour, any day of the week, of the year. To have this commitment, but we're growing, and in Costa Rica we're growing a lot as well. But it's like the good thing is that the talent in all our offices are united whenever we have a project.
Right. Costa Rica, of course, is a country with roughly 60 billion GDP. It's the largest by GDP in
Guatemala as well is very large.
It's in that size.
Yes, it's very big.
In the 60 billion or more size. And in El Salvador, 5 years ago, it was roughly 28 billion. They're, I think, 32, 33 billion in GDP. And Kathy Wood, who's a famous money manager on Wall Street, she was here. She met with the president and talking about Bitcoin and artificial intelligence. And she made this prediction that, well, El Salvador's GDP could be $300 billion within 5 years. Okay, that's an enormously aggressive projection. But is that anywhere in the ballpark that you can see? I mean, is El Salvador then the economy get to that 60 billion level, which would put it into the bracket of a Guatemala or a Costa Rica? Can that happen pretty quickly?
Well, I see what the president is doing, and you would never have thought so many projects at the same time. He's working on doing another port, and he brought the Turks with a lot of experience. He's building another airport, which was a project for tons of years and nothing had happened. So he's working in a lot of projects with talented people and good investors who want to come. So I believe that if he continues with what he's doing, certainly we're going to grow.
That's fantastic. All righty. Well, this is the table with the hot legal action. So folks can avail themselves of your service, correct? And if they need to get in more advice, they can come.
If they need anything, ariaslaw.com. And we're here to answer any questions, private questions, confidential questions, which we understand perfectly.
You told me that the first 3 times that you bailed me out of prison, and you said the 4th time you weren't going to bail me out again for a 4th time. Is that still true?
No, I'm always going to bail you out.
You will always help me get out of prison?
Yeah, definitely.
I always seem to be finding myself with a problem like that, but we're still good?
No, we're still good, and we have all sorts of services, tax services, immigration in case you have a problem, commercial,
legal defense,
banking,
criminal defense,
intellectual property with Morena, financing or acquisitions with Roberta.
A lot of
Mario,
burgers.
that it's the Bitcoin
What does Mario
lover.
do?
Bitcoin lover. You know,
He's a Bitcoin lover? Is
crypto-
that an
yes,
official
yes,
title at
yes.
Arias? Bitcoin lover? Mario, Bitcoin lover, it says on his business
He's
card?
the crypto guy.
He's the crypto guy?
Yeah.
He's out there playing right
yeah,
now.
playing. He wants to beat the odds.
If he wins the Bitcoin and gets a hole-in-one on hole 16, can I sue him?
No,
No?
he has played by the rules.
Okay.
Why would you
But isn't
sue
there a
him?
loophole or something? Come on.
Well, enjoy the rest of the day. We're glad to be here with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lillian. All righty. Round of applause. Arias Law Firm. All righty. Well, that's who I want representing me the next time I find myself in handcuffs, which seems to be every 2 or 3 weeks. Da, 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 da. How's everybody doing? Hold there. Stand. Put them in the wings. I'm going to kind of read the temperature of the room. Make sure everyone's happy. You seem happy. Really? What makes you so happy? Bitcoins make, okay, enough said. That's all you need to know. All right, come on up on stage. Round of applause. Yeah, here we go. I should be giving everybody a cigar. There's no way I can smoke all these cigars. Lolo has my golf cart key. Hold on, let me get my virtual Stacy. In case we ever have a problem, I can just talk to my cardboard Stacy. I gave my golf cart key to Lolo.
Oh, really?
That's right. Okay. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's usually everybody in the audience is like, uh-oh. Hey, do you want a cigar? No? Okay. Introduce yourself to the crowd. Oh, you got to turn your mic on, I think. All right, try that.
Hello, my name is Steve Brulard. I'm just a normal Bitcoiner living in El Salvador.
That's incredibly unimpressive.
I know.
Why? You're an average guy living in El Salvador. You're a Bitcoiner.
Yes.
All right, have a seat. We need to chat. We need to talk about this. When did you get here?
We moved here August 31st
When? I'm sorry.
of 2024,
Oh, 2024. Okay. And where did you move from?
Florida.
Okay. And so what were you doing in Florida, if I may ask?
Yeah, we were living there. I was working and, living life, fishing, doing all the fun things that we do.
Kind of retired, semi-retired?
No, I'm still working.
Okay, what do you do?
We're in government contracting,
Okay.
and, I work remotely. So.
And you still do that for the U.S. government?
No, it's not for, we work for the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Veteran Affairs.
Yeah,
Okay.
we work on some large IT projects.
Large IT projects. So you have an IT background.
Yes.
Is that how you got into Bitcoin?
Actually, no. Well, kind of, sort of.
Okay, what's the story?
So,
Then speak like into the mic.
okay, I'll speak into the mic.
Like into the mic. Into the mic. There you go.
Into the mic.
How's that?
Thank you.
Good. All right,
Okay.
tell us, how did you get into Bitcoin?
Well, back in, I don't know, this was during COVID when Bitcoin was down around 3,500. A person I worked with had said to me, hey, Steve, I think you should invest in some Bitcoin. And I didn't know anything about it. And I said, yeah, okay. Sounds good. I'll do it. And I didn't do it. And 1 year later, he came to me and said, Steve, I hope you invested in Bitcoin like I told you to. And I said, no, I didn't. And at that
I'm about to
moment-
cry right now. I'm about to cry.
Yeah, well,
I hate this. It's a tragedy story.
It's a tragedy
It's this story that I see where we're going with this. And then you went on a murder spree.
So-
and you killed everyone in your neighborhood? And it was on the front page of the newspaper? No.
no, I decided that at that moment when he told me where it was, I said, boy, this is something I need to learn something about. And so I spent a lot of time, went down some bad roads, but ended up on the right road within 6 months. So, and that's how I got into it. And then once I got down the rabbit hole, it was one rabbit hole to the next rabbit hole to the next rabbit hole. And And now I'm
Okay, so
100%.
when you were into your rabbit hole journey, were you listening to podcasts?
I was listening to you, Max.
Okay, okay.
You and Stacy.
Okay, and that's like your primary source of information? Or who else?
Yeah. Primary source. I would also listen to, I was listening to at that time some of Jack Mahler's presentations.
Jack, right?
Michael Saylor.
Oh, Michael Saylor. So you got in 2024?
No, I got in 2020.
2020. So about the same time as Michael Saylor.
Yes.
Okay, so you were on Michael Saylor wave of adoption into
Yes.
Bitcoin. Jack Mahler's, Max and Stacy. How about books? What kind of books did you read?
Oh man, I've read a lot of them. I read Saifedean's, all 3 of his books.
Right. Okay.
I've read, I'm trying to think. I read Book of Max.
The Book of Max, of course. So you're in Miami. You're doing government contract work. Mm-hmm. It's 2020, and you find Bitcoin. You start buying Bitcoin, and you're reading the books. You're doing the podcasts, and now you're in El Salvador. This is where the story takes a turn.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I looked around, and it's not something where all the pieces fall into place at the same time. It's something that occurs over time, and one piece falls in, and then multiple pieces start to fall in, and then pretty soon, most or if not all the pieces fall into place. And we're living in, on Marco Island and in just south of Naples. And I'm looking around, and we're living in a nice neighborhood, and there's people in the neighborhood that I don't know. They don't look like they belong. It looks a little kind of shaky at times, where that wasn't that way when we moved there. And just looking around at everything that was happening, I got very concerned on security, because my wife is very concerned about security. She's from Colombia originally. And ironically, I was the one that kind of broached the subject to her that, hey, maybe we need to think about moving. And so that's what kind of started the process, and then it was a 1.5-year process to finally get here ultimately.
So this story is a story that lacks drama. It's not a dramatic story.
Okay.
There's nothing really dramatic about this story, which in itself is remarkable. Because
Satoshi did talk to me.
Well, you're a guy who is living in America and part of quote unquote American dream, and you notice that your surroundings seem to be disintegrating a bit. And we know that they are, because America's on a fiat money standard just like the rest of the world. You found Bitcoin, and you have the sensitivity, you have the consciousness, you have the awareness that there's maybe a better way. There's something better out there. You find yourself in El Salvador, and by just using common sense, you weren't struck by a bolt of Bitcoin or anything. You weren't in a truckers' strike in Canada. It's just common sense, right?
It would seem that way, but it's amazing how many people don't see it, and we're living in it, and it's common sense, but at the same time, it's hard to do, because I think the biggest obstacle is that we all get in our comfort zone, and people don't want to leave the comfort zone, and the comfort zone is a very dangerous place to live, because there is no growth that comes out of it. And there's obviously more factors to what happened. We've done some transactions internationally in Colombia, and just sending money there with the money that we paid taxes on, that we worked for, it's being censored by the banks. If we don't answer every question perfectly,
right,
they say, no, we're not sending that. And then we have to think of other ways to do it. And so it was really inhibiting what we wanted to do. And for me, it made me upset inside that, we're being told what we can spend our money on and what we can't spend our money on. So that...
Are you an expatriate? Are you walking away from America?
No, not really. I mean, it could end up that way. I don't know. I don't know the direction of things. I mean,
Let me ask you this question. You have a group of people. Is it something inside your character that makes you kind of hear the Bitcoin calling? Or are Bitcoiners born? Or can you learn to be a Bitcoiner? Because my experience has been that people who are Bitcoiners were predisposed to listen to this subversive message of perfect money that obliterates central banks. Because it's a lesson and a thought that completely attacks the core mechanism running our establishment. And it's very, in some minds, dangerous thought to have. Is that something that people learn, or is it they already have it in them? In other words, when you go to orange pill somebody and they don't want to listen to it, can they ever be orange pilled, or should we just walk away and live our lives and say adios? You're never going to get it. What do you recommend?
well, I think that most of the people that I've talked to try to orange pill are on a glide path. And that glide path is probably a lot like mine. I mean, it didn't, for whatever reason, resonate with me. And yeah, I mean, it's the money at first and all that, and then it becomes much more than that. And I think that I don't know, Bitcoiners are, I think, very smart people. I think that they catch on to things quicker, but I think people change to become Bitcoiners when it's necessary.
Right.
That's what I think.
The adoption is in the order of necessity. So in countries where they already have hyperinflation, people are more Bitcoin centric. And in the U.S., with the world reserve currency, they're less inclined to embrace Bitcoin because they have the world reserve currency, right? They don't want to upset the apple cart.
In that comfort zone.
Let me ask you something. Do you have any questions for me?
I got lots of questions for
All
you.
right, I'm curious to hear what you might have a question for me. So I'm going to flip the table here. I am the guest. What do you want to know?
I'd kind of like to know your frustration level, that if you had any, back in 2010, 11, those times when you were trying to convince people, because I know you were doing it in a very generous way with some folks, and for whatever reason, they didn't do it.
Right. Well, at the time, we were doing a TV show, The Kaiser Report, and we were big gold bugs, and we followed gold. And because Kaiser Report's an international TV show, went out to 100 different countries. We talk about economics and finance, but every country has their own currency and their own style of doing economics, and it's very different. So you need to have something that's universal, that all countries and all people in all countries can have at least some orientation to or some opinion about, and that would be gold. And gold is money, and you can talk about gold, and you can talk about central banks, and you can then talk about gold, and people can kind of tune in and say, yeah, I know what gold is, so I kind of understand vaguely what they're saying, or they understand a lot about what they're saying. So it's a universal money. That's why we picked gold. And during the Gulf War I, when nobody would come on our show and be our guest, only the gold bugs would come on our show and be our guest, because the gold bugs are intrepid, fearless hodlers of hard money, and they're not afraid to come on the Kaiser Report. And we were very loyal to our gold bug, like James Turk at Gold Money and those folks, and we love gold. Then when Bitcoin came around, we said, well, this is digital gold. So we started talking about it on the show as content. So the first use for us of Bitcoin was as content, as editorial content, as a way to fill time, because you're doing 3 shows a week. It's a 30-minute show, and you have to constantly fill that beast and fill the beast of media with stuff. So, and then Bitcoin filled that need because there was a lot going on. There's cypherpunks, there's coders, and there's shitcoins, and there's altcoins, and there's exchanges blowing up, and there's the mysterious Satoshi, and there's people living in their basements mining Bitcoin. So it became a source of entertainment, source of content, and we can talk about it in the context of markets and finance, which is what the show Kaiser Report is all about. And that's kind of why we were first attracted to it as an entertainment medium, and not a medium of exchange, but as like a Marshall McLuhan, who said the medium is the message back in the 1960s. And as a media aficionado and as a kind of a scholarly approach to what is media, Bitcoin is an entertainment medium. And so that was how we first used it and approached it, and we're utilization of it from that point of view. Then it became, as I say, the path narrows, and the path toward maximalism did not start on day one, because the path toward maximalism kicked in really 5 or 6 years later. I would say during the fork wars of 2016, 2017, where you really had to pick a side. You had to become a maximalist. You had to really put aside all the shit coins at that point and just focus on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was the winner, and it's a winner-take-all, and it was basically maximalism from 2016 going forward. But so the answer to the question was the transformation that happens as Bitcoiners goes down many paths, different twists and turns, and we all have our individual journey, but at some point you realize we're on the same pilgrimage. We're all heading toward the Mecca of sound money, which is the Bitcoin vector or the Bitcoin singularity. But, we've been in it for 14 years, been through pretty much every single twist and turn of the story, and now we're in El Salvador, because El Salvador is the cutting edge of Bitcoin. El Salvador is where the story is being taken to the next level. President Bukele has been orange-pilled. He's got a vision. He's a visionary. He's a technologist. He's, as we heard from our previous guest, he's somebody who is extremely good at leading the nation, and that means focusing on the next thing to do right now to move the ball forward and not to get distracted. He's extremely focused, and that's hard to do, and it's hard to do and run a country, but he does it brilliantly, and the country is clicking ahead. Since you've been living here in El Salvador, have you noticed the changes? Tell us about it.
Yeah, there's, moving to El Salvador is it's been a great move. And I think the biggest surprise to both my wife and I is just how nice and kind all the people are. And not only nice and kind, but humble. And I can't tell you how many people I've met that have been very, very helpful, because it is a big change coming from one life to another. It's been enjoyable. Big change doesn't mean bad. It just means that it's something that you need to get used to a little bit, and you got to adapt to different ways of doing things and all that. But from what I've seen here, I think Bitcoin is on the right pathway. The adoption phase from the merchant standpoint, there's a lot of work to be done there yet, but especially with banks, I think that's already been talked about here.
Yeah. No, you're right. The Salvadoran people are incredibly generous to us. We were living in this El Bunga-style hotel in San Salvador for 7, 8 months. And we would, every few days, someone would get a package at the door left to us from a family. Then they made us chicken soup and a sandwich and said, well, Max and Stacy, you're part of our family. We would like you, please enjoy this chicken soup my mom made. We love you guys. And we were almost at tears. The kind of that kindness, and had never experienced it before like that. Strangers, but everyone here has that family vibe, and they extended that to us in a very gracious manner, and so. We feel extraordinarily lucky to be able to be here, and to have folks open up and let it. If you move, you can live in Japan for 50 years and you'll never be Japanese. You can live in France your whole life and you'll never be French. You'll always be an outsider. You'll never be French. And in the United States, they have this idea of the melting pot, where you can be anyone can be an American. And this is similar to El Salvador, really. If you come here and you have an open heart and you want to work hard, you're accepted as Salvadoran. I think is a fair statement. Am I right? Salvadorans,
yeah, that's
they're all
been our
having a
experience.
pupusa right now. That's the pupusa.
Yeah.
So you had the same experience.
Yeah, the exact same experience, and it's been really. It's one thing to say it, and it's one thing to experience it. It's really beyond description. So I can't even describe it properly.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Did
I
wanna
love
mention
that
one thing.
hearing. Yeah, please do.
since Swan is the sponsor,
Yeah.
that is where I buy all my Bitcoin. So,
Okay, Swan Bitcoin.
yeah, and they do a great job. And you know, I work with Alex Stanzik, and you know, I can't say enough good things about the company and the fact that they put on this event and
Yeah.
so many others.
Oh yeah, we've been known Corey and Swan since they started, and we're so happy that they could be a sponsor of the event. And I'm glad. And thank you for that plug. They're really a class organization, and it's a great on ramp for anybody getting into Bitcoin. Would be Swan Bitcoin. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, round of applause. Woohoo! All right, Sam Parker, how are you? How's everything cool? It's all good. All right, chilling. Who's next? Where's my director? You're next? Uh-oh. Come on stage. Yeah, round of applause. Woo! All right. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone,
Hold on. They got it. There you go. All right.
my name is Mike. Well, my name is Micah Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Leaf Brands. We are a cannabis and hemp company based out of California. We're traded in Toronto and in the U.S. And we have been migrating the company onto a Bitcoin standard for the better part of 6 months or so. And excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you're a cannabis company in California. California is now on fire. Is everybody high?
Yes, California is on fire for the 40th time in the last couple of years. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's not like a cloud of marijuana smoke just wafting over the entire state?
No, maybe the neighborhood that burned down was, there in Hollywood. So something else is probably wafting in the air, but it's not marijuana.
All right. Well, no, I mean, I don't make light of the situation. Obviously, there's a tragedy going on there, and my heart goes out to them. And so with your company, you said you're on a Bitcoin standard. Does that mean that you are like doing a Michael Saylor? You're putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet?
Yes, we're on that path. The first step for us was to, we actually used Unchained to set up a multi-sig wallet, and those guys helped us out, told us about this event, and had us come down. We set it up to our stores, and our B2B business was able to accept Bitcoin, so we've acquired about 5 Bitcoin so far that way.
Okay, so the playbook for a company like yours, Unchained Capital, you give them a call, and they set you up, and they you go on this path of adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet of the company, and you're a Bitcoin reserved treasury. The Bitcoin treasury playbook is for you, and you're not a $100 billion company like a Michael Saylor. You're a smaller company, but you get the same benefits, right? And the cost of doing this is remarkably small because you don't have to call Wall Street Bank, and they do an underwriting, they do an IPO, they do a securitization, they charge a lot of money. They go to Unchained, and for a relatively very, very light amount of fees, you are in the Bitcoin treasury business. Am I right?
That is correct. And there's a few other perks to it as well, I'd say. So our business, as many people know, is still federally illegal. It's legal at the state level. It's illegal at the federal level. So banking is kind of off of the table for us. It's a pain in the ass. We've been the victim of asset forfeiture multiple times, so we personally know what it's like to have law enforcement or banking come in and seize your assets, your cash, and whatever else. And we're seeing this as an opportunity to make sure that that never happens again.
Right. So in the United States, states can make things legal first before it becomes a federal law. So in California, the cannabis is legal under various manifestations like the medical marijuana, I guess, is how it's legal?
Yeah, so in 1996, California passed a law for medical, and then in 2016, we went to Prop 64, which was recreational business, and it's technically for-profit, but the way that they set up the tax structure, they pretty much are trying to make that impossible as well.
Right, and of course, this is why Bitcoin has a bit of a reputation, because initially it was used by drug dealers, drug swapping, pornography, sex workers, people on the margins of society who weren't in the banking system. They could effectively use Bitcoin, and that's why I think part of the reputation is what it is from the early days and before it became a Wall Street darling. It was used by these groups. So at Leaf, it's you have a Bitcoin treasury operation up and running, and it's what percentage of the business of people that you interact with are using Bitcoin on the commercial side, on the retail side?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So we put out a press release that we were going this way, and we notified all of our clients that, like, hey, we would rather transact with you guys in Bitcoin moving forward. And I think at first the reaction was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, like they didn't understand it. Since then, we've had certain companies reach out, and like I said, we're at 5 coins so far, which is great, and it's only been about 3 months that we've actually been accepting payments. We set up the stores on a Lightning Network. We have people coming in buying products there. So yeah, and then we're out. We are going to go the Michael Saylor route a bit and raise some money, put some more money on, or more Bitcoin on the balance sheet, hopefully at the end of January, beginning of February.
So yeah, I'm just curious. So just to understand the business a little bit more. So is it actually it's a retail shop that sells a variety of different cannabis products, essentially?
Yeah, no. So our core business is actually cultivation and manufacturing. So cultivation, growing,
yeah,
and manufacturing. So we grow. We have the largest cannabis cultivation permit in California, and we also have the largest hemp permit. We purchased a 2,000-acre ranch 2.5 years ago. So we have two different plots. It's essentially the same plant, but they're treated differently from a regulatory perspective. And so we take that product, we dry it, we run it through an extraction process, goes through a manufacturing facility that we have, and then we power many of the larger brands or retail chains with the product.
So you're the
make.
wholesaler.
Correct. That's it.
You're the agricultural wholesaler, who's then the branded goes into the retail shops as different brands, and you're the supplier of the material.
Yeah. So if you go into a store in California and look at the wall that would have concentrated products on it, we probably make up about 60% of what you would see.
Okay. And of course, Jack Mahler's family, I believe, is in that business as well.
That would be news to me, but
I believe
that's great to hear.
At some point, I'm pretty sure that is also they had been in that business as well. So the agricultural side. So of course, California is an agricultural state. They grow the most of the country's almonds and avocados and things like that. And it sounds like they're growing most of the marijuana in the United States. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that California is still the #1 producer in the country. You've got 70% of the country now has recreational states. About 80% has medical laws. So other states are now growing. But California, just like the food industry, we're the breadbasket of the world. It's the same for cannabis and hemp as well.
And what's the is marijuana? Is it a pretty? Is it a lot of water used or fertilizer, or is it organic? Or as a farmer on the farming side, what's it like?
Yeah, no, we're relatively a low water use crop compared to a lot of the others. So almonds, alfalfa use many more acre feet than cannabis does. If I can point to one good thing that's come out of government regulation pertaining to our industry, it's that we're held to these very high pesticide screening regulations. So we spend about $100,000 a month testing the product at every stage of the supply chain. And what we're hoping is that our industry shines a light on just how bad agricultural and food production is in America in general. So we don't use any GMOs of any sort, no inputs at all. We don't use any sort of pesticides at all. Any sort of fertilizers or IPM program that we use is all organic. So 0 parts per million when it comes to any sort of pesticide use. But what we've seen, and we own a big farm, but we purchase from about 250 other licensed farms throughout the state of California. And what's been kind of eye-opening for us over the course of the 10 years that we've been doing this is that we've gotten to know all these other growers. They have organic standards and practices that they're doing, but they're failing for pesticides use because the other industry down the road, the almond farmer, the wine guy down the road, they're using it at levels that are so dramatic that it's blowing onto their crops. And
that's been the story with Monsanto with their genetically modified, what they used to call Terminator seeds. These are seeds that do not reproduce. And so farmers have to buy them every single year. and they were blowing into neighboring crops, and that was causing a lot of tension. And they would claim patent rights to the
Yes,
neighbors'
that's right.
agricultural products because their seeds had blown into their farm, and so then they sued them, and then they would acquire that farm, and that's how they would expand. And they were using lawfare. The lawyers left already. You know, they're like, uh-oh. They're talking about all that tortious interference. Let's get out of here. But that's like to bring the lawyers. So they're like all about lawyers over there at Monsanto. They don't grow stuff. They just sue people.
Yeah.
But so your regulatory requirements is because the pesticides have to do with the usage and you're inhaling the product and it would be cause more damage? Or?
Yes, yeah, you're inhaling it or you're ingesting it, depending on what sort of product it is.
And how does that compare to like tobacco?
Say it again, to what?
Tobacco. Like, is tobacco similar or that?
No, so tobacco doesn't have to adhere to any of the rules that we do.
Right.
None at all. So we've actually done some pretty fun tests where we've taken a pack of Marlboro, we'll test it at the same testing facility as our product, and it comes back and it's completely contaminated with all types of stuff in it. Same with wine, same with alcohol, food. We've done these side-by-side comparisons, and it's unfortunate, but most of the ag land in California is completely contaminated.
Right. So in tobacco, we know that all the many additives that go into there, and that it's been the whole story of the legal actions against tobacco industry for years. So you're saying in the marijuana industry, your strict regulatory standards by the government are actually you're characterizing that as a benefit because it keeps the product. It gives it that people know they're buying a product that is contamination free, essentially.
Yeah, but I'd say that's the only benefit.
Right, but it does have. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're pro government. I'm just saying that it's interesting that in fact in this case, it's giving you a seal of contamination free product as a corollary. And so, how is the business growing? Because I look at the stocks of pot and marijuana on the stock exchange, and it's very volatile. And what's going to be the future here? We have a new administration in the White House. There seems to be a more conservative swing, which might swing away from recreational drug use. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been hearing that they were going to reschedule it or make it federally illegal for a very long time. So my thought is that government is inept for the most part, and like they're not going to get out of their own way. I don't think it's really high on anyone's priority list to go in and change any rules in the near future. So the rumor is that rescheduling, which would take it from a Schedule 1 drug, which is the same as fentanyl or cocaine, and move it to a Schedule 3, is supposed to happen this year. I don't know, jury's out, we'll see. And then in regards to the capital markets and the public stocks, you're right. So cannabis started listing in Canada on exchanges. That's where we are as well. About 12, 13 years ago, and I think when it first came out, there's a lot of hype and valuations on companies that made 0 cents whatsoever, and the pendulum has swung dramatically over to the other side now, to where you've got valuations that don't make any sense either, where it's like you have a real company with real assets that have a valuation that is dramatically underwater, and I think that's primarily driven by the fact that investors that came in early are fatigued with not being able to get out of these deals. They're illiquid deals. There's not a lot of, not a lot of shares trading in the company that they're in. And it's caused, so there's one ETF that represents the cannabis industry called the MSOS. And the other day it hit its all-time low. And it's because investors, they're waiting for this they're like waiting for this catalyst event. And so one of the things that we're excited about at Leaf is that we think that pairing Bitcoin, it's like there's a lot of similarities between our industry and Bitcoin, and we think that by pairing Bitcoin to our business, that it's a way, we think that we're the first cannabis company to do it, and my expectation is that other CEOs are going to see what we're doing, just like we saw with what Michael Saylor did and some of these other public companies that are doing it.
You're saying a lot of comparisons between your business and Bitcoin. On the volatility side, in other words, we were just talking about stock volatility, and certainly Bitcoin is a very volatile trading vehicle. And is that what you mean by similarities, or can you expand on that?
Yeah, not so much on the volatility side. What I mean is more of being scrutinized by others. You know, like you've been doing the Bitcoin thing for a very long time. People come in and they tell you're an idiot, that this thing's a Ponzi scheme, and we get a lot of that in our industry as well. When Bitcoin went through, and I can't remember what was the more recent the name of the more recent thing where it was marginalized where you couldn't get bank accounts. We go through the same thing. So like we go in to set up a bank account at a local credit union, and we're marginalized through some sort of operation that's going on that we're not even aware of.
All right. So in terms of banking rails, you are frustrating. The banks are censoring you, and same thing with Bitcoin companies. They've had the similar experience.
Yes, correct.
And so if people. So you're a farmer, you're agricultural. It's not a retail product. There's not a store. So there's nobody here would actually do any business with you unless they're opening a store.
The only caveat to that is we have a brand called Leaf Organics, which is a hemp line, and that's sold in most of the Nordstroms, Four Seasons hotels, Marriott's, Beverly Hills Hotel.
It's hemp.
It's a hemp-derived like pain management brand. So like roll-ons, topicals. Products of that nature.
Oh yeah, so there's THC, and then there's the other one,
CBD.
CBD, and that's a hemp derivative.
Yeah, so CBD usually is talking about the hemp side of the industry. Same plant, they're just different compounds in the same plant.
Yeah.
And so CBD is on the hemp side. We make pain management products, which we just discussed.
So that's like a really, like you say, goes to hotels and stuff?
Correct,
There's a big
yeah.
market for that, right?
So
Like a chain of
federally, it can be
hotels?
sold anywhere.
Right.
We sell it off of our website, D2C, and then on the cannabis side, it's very specific in the channels that you can sell it.
Well, I have a story about, we were making a series with Stephen Baldwin, who's a brother of Alec Baldwin, and we were in a pharmacy shop in California with some ointment had THC. Then we rolled into, I think it was Wyoming, and the cops stopped us because the laws are different, and all hell broke loose, and guns were drawn, and it's a really interesting story. But we're out of time now. I'll have to tell this story later on today. Remind me to tell you that Stephen Baldwin. Handcuffs and a THC story later on.
All right, I will.
All right, so thanks so much. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thanks
me.
for participating. Round of applause. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, man.
I appreciate it.
Great. Super. Fantastic. All righty. Da 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 da. Here we go. Time for the next. Are you the next guest? Round of applause for Sovereignty Studios. You're up here representing. We got two guys. Michael.
Two of us.
How you doing?
Oh, have a seat.
Where am I at here?
Let me just put my cigar. Would you like a cigar?
We've got a few already.
All right. Well, when we organized this event, we talked about it in Nashville, and then they got us connected to Bitcoin Sports Network, Chris and Frida. Then the wheels started to roll, and my first call was to Sovereignty Studios.
Appreciate that.
Who are here in El Salvador, and we're going to find out their whole story in a moment. But thanks for allowing me to crash into your world and get a lot of free media that I've been able to squeeze out of you guys every few months, and it helps. It helps, all media helps. So anyway, Michael Ruiz, introduce yourself and then introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Michael Ruiz, longtime Bitcoiner. Made my way to El Salvador for the first time in December 2023, and it was our first trip. I came with Jordan, and 10 days wasn't enough, and so I came back to El Salvador every month from that time until June when I decided to come here full time.
And I'm Jordan Herbs. Similar, kind of a long-term Bitcoiner, kind of not. Took a while to figure it out. Finally figured it out. I was watching Max's videos. I think it was a video with you at the police here in El Salvador. I think it was in 2021. And you were like, look how cool the police are. And I was like, man, and I was coming from a history of doing a lot of travel videography, behind-the-scenes stuff. And I was like, man, I would love to go to El Salvador and make media with Max Kaiser. That would be my dream. But I was such a world away from that. It was just a dream. But here we are a few years later, finally made it down, moved my family down, and we're making media with Max Kaiser.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, round of applause. And immediately, you know, you guys are crushing it. The professionalism and the shot making and the filmmaking is very high standard. And, you know, we've been doing this for a long time, so we recognize that talent, and we're happy that you're here doing stuff. And so, Michael, how would Sovereignty Studios, because I know since you've been here, I think the mission statement has shifted a little bit. And because you're kind of you're actively rolling with the flow, you know, and you came with an idea, and I think it's kind of evolving a little bit. So tell us a little bit about that path.
Yeah, so everything here has basically been an organic evolution. We came here just wanting to be a positive force in the renaissance that's taking place. Jordan's, you know, he has a background in media and film, and, you know, we partnered up and we said, okay, let's come down here and let's see how we can make an impact. We know that media is powerful, so whatever business we were gonna build down here, we knew that we needed to have a media presence. And so that was the idea for Sovereignty Studios. And since then, we've been exploring different opportunities to create businesses. One thing that we noticed with our media engagement, so many people were having questions about El Salvador, interested, intrigued about what's going on here. They want to know if the hype is for real. And so we've shifted into retreats, actually becoming some type of gateway for people to come down, discover El Salvador, feel the magic that we all feel. Like, I feel like El Salvador, for Bitcoiners, is like, you know, a second home, right? They can come here and they can feel like they're in their place. This country is very friendly and welcoming to Bitcoiners. And so, yeah, we decided to facilitate their journey down here and help them discover El Salvador.
Right, and that includes these meetup events that you've been having, and that seems to be kind of a relatively new thing, and they've been super successful, right?
Yeah, well, honestly, it was a lot because you crashed our party, Max. So Max gave us a boost. We were putting on this retreat, and we said, you know what, we're just going to put it on. We're going to see how it goes. Hopefully, we'll get a couple people to come down. But Max, you hit me up, you texted me, and you said, hey, can we come basically speak at your retreat? And I was like, oh, my God. It was a big win for us. And I think within a week after that, it sold out. So you were a big help.
Great. Well, always help. You know, happy to help. Now, Jordan, you came after Michael, right?
We came at the same time.
Roughly the same time.
And no, our first trip was together about a year ago, and then he just kept coming back. I have kids, and it was a bit more difficult. I came back a few times. We made some videos at the halving party last year, which is where we finally started to really feel the potential. And when we finally made the decision, like, okay, let's find somewhere to live close to each other, and let's do this, move down here. I would say more than an idea, we had a feeling that we knew we just had to follow. And I think that's something a lot of Bitcoiners out there are feeling about El Salvador is we want to escape this fiat paradigm. We want to start building a new future for ourselves, for our kids. And El Salvador is the place where if there's anywhere in the world where the people are showing up to build this future, it's here in El Salvador.
Right.
So I would say we came here with this feeling, started making media, started putting ourselves out the way, and now, like Michael's saying, it looks like we're acting as a gateway for a lot of people out there to start discovering El Salvador from afar.
Yeah, and you brought your family here, your wife and kids. And so a lot of people here would think who have a family to bring, they might, how was that experience? Because a lot of people would be curious about that. You know, that's more of an undertaking to come here with your family. Can you explore that a little bit? Tell us what to expect.
Yeah, well, my kids are just old enough now where we have to start putting them into school. And we're not quite really the homeschooling type, at least at this toddler age. So I would say the biggest thing to think about by bringing your family down is the education you wish for your kids. So there's trade-offs you got to make. And as we get to know El Salvador better and we think, okay, what's our next step when our lease is up? Are we going to stay in this neighborhood? Are we going to go somewhere else? The number one factor for me and my family is, well, what's the schooling situation going to be like? Are there tutors, or is there a homeschool program, like a community homeschool? Or is there this really cool Montessori school with libertarian values, 10 minutes away from our house now, which is at this moment, the only real school we would want to send our kids to here, they accept Bitcoin now, so they're super on the same wavelength. And so if you have kids and you're moving down here, am I going to homeschool? Is there going to be a tutor around, or am I going to ship my kids somewhere an hour off every day? And that's like the big trade-off, is you might not be able to live where you want yet, but that's why we're here, is hopefully to bring the right people here to where we can expand and put more of those high-quality, high-caliber schools in new places.
Right. So people say, it's for folks who want to be on the pioneers of something, and but it's rapidly changing so fast. And Michael, the rapid rate of change is really almost month by month. You can see huge changes, and certainly on the security side, we've gone from most dangerous country in the world to safest in the hemisphere, possibly going to be safest in the world soon enough. And where are the most interest coming from? I know Canada and Canadians are coming down here. Where do you see mostly the interest coming from? And what is the number one reason why people are coming here?
So, you want to take this? I'll take it, and then you can chime in. But I think the USA, right? We get a lot of people from Texas and Florida coming down just because I think that they're direct flights. Canada as well. So I would say the interest primarily still has been from North America, but we're starting to get people from Australia, New Zealand, and all types of places around the world starting to reach out, starting to inquire. We just put together a free email guide to El Salvador. Everything you need to know in 5 emails gets sent to you. And so we just launched it last week, and we're already seeing a lot of success from that. So it gives people an introductory look to El Salvador from afar and piques their interest and hopefully gets them to actually make the trip down here. So yeah, I think that, like to answer your question, it's North America, but I think we're going to start seeing people from around the world starting to come here and check things out.
And Jordan, yeah.
I was just going to chime in. I would say a lot of North Americans show up in our online community, but the people with the biggest fire under their butt to get down here are the Canadians.
Right.
So the United States people, we see the writing on the wall, especially as Bitcoiners. It doesn't matter who wins as president, it's still on this trajectory. So everyone gets it, but it's not as urgent, right? The communism hasn't fully taken over yet, right? But in Canada, everyone's ready to go. So.
Yeah, Canada, you just see a huge number of people from Canada showing up, and they are really fed up with what's happening there. I mean, there's going to be some political change there, and there'll be possibly a new government, possibly a conservative government, and they're definitely going through a lot of changes. But in the U.S. and in Canada, there's just a feeling of exhaustion that, they're still tied very much to the fiat money mindset. Here you have the Bitcoin mindset. To what degree is that Bitcoin mindset taking hold in El Salvador, and how does it manifest itself beyond just the transaction, like, oh, I'm buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin? There's a lot more to it, right? So talk about that.
Yeah, well, we advertise ourselves as we're trying to build a low time preference culture. We're trying to propagate that. We're trying to create media that broadcasts that, interview the people that believe in that. And so, yeah, a lot of those like-minded folks are down here. They want to build. There's a lot of people that aren't with that mindset also that are down here, and that's cool. Bitcoin's the great unifier. Everyone's on their own journey.
I would just say, you and Stacy call this the Renaissance 2.0, right? And I think that's one of the things that we want to focus on is helping, bring the culture towards a place of excellence. And so we came down here kind of to broadcast the Renaissance that's happening here. Like Jordan said, there's some people that are here just to live in El Salvador, and there's some people here that are here to build. And so, in whatever capacity we can help push that forward, help people build the tools and the businesses and the brands that are really going to push us towards a place of cultural excellence. We want to help. We want to help them with their media and their marketing.
Yeah, because there's just so much missing in El Salvador still, and these are obviously challenges anywhere. If you're going to leave your home country and move somewhere else, there's going to be cultural differences. Things are just different. Central America is not always the easiest place to live if you're from North America, but the trade-offs you have to believe are worth it. Like 5 years from now, for example, like, why am I here? building a new life for my kids. And 5 years from now, if all of us play our part and we're, what you and Stacy are doing, bringing Bitcoiners down here, we're trying to support entrepreneurs down here. Hey, let's get these new businesses started so we can see this way of life that we all believe in. We can fix it. What we don't like going on in the United States with this corporate fiat stuff, come down here and let's do it in a Bitcoin way. And this is the testing grounds for that. If there's any place to do it, it's here.
What are you learning from Salvadorans? You guys come, you have media expertise, you're entrepreneurs, you're here in El Salvador, and this is a vibrant culture. And what are you learning from folks here?
They're so Salvadoran people are incredible. My family's from Honduras, so we're the country next door. So I kind of already have some of that cultural, family-oriented values instilled into me. But being here from the United States, you really feel it. My girlfriend is now a Salvadoran, and it's been great getting to know her family. And yeah, it's just warm, kind-hearted people. And I think that they're really excited about what's happening here in their country. From all my interactions, people are, they're thrilled to see the changes and that there's, that this country is now on an upward trajectory. For so long, it's been in the dark. And, I think a lot of Salvadorans, from conversations I had with them, they were somewhat even embarrassed about that. And now I think that there's a renewed sense of pride in their country. And it's just great to see that. And you feel it. You feel the positive outlook in the people. And yeah, it's just a good energy to be around.
Right. Now, I follow you on social media, of course. So what you're saying here is, I'm filling in the blanks. Because as I recall, a few months ago, you were saying, I'm exploring the dating scene in El Salvador. And I'm meeting a lot of Salvadoran women. Now you have a Salvadoran girlfriend. So.
And she's amazing. Can I just jump in real quick? Or no, go ahead.
Yeah,
Tell us everything.
And you brought her up on your social media, so I'm gonna ask this. So you have.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. So there's, every country, every culture, male, female, different, manifestations of their genders, and so now you're with a Salvadoran woman, and I don't know if this is a great question, but I'll do it anyway. So how does this compare and contrast with your experience growing up primarily around American women?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to interject with. Is I dated in Miami, and I think that in Miami all the women have okay, I got to be.
How can you answer this question
I
without
gotta be careful
insulting
here.
all? This is like a tricky question. I'm enjoying this. Actually,
But I'll just say it like
I'm
this.
a professional journalist, okay? I know how to get into people's skin. Notice that Michael's now on the spot because he wants to talk about this, but at the same time, he could totally put himself in a box where he can't possibly get out. I call it the vaginal thumb screw. And I don't wish to be controversial or say anything insulting to anybody, but okay, I'm sorry, that's all about me. Michael, continue.
Yeah, I'll just say this without saying anything about the women in the States or anything like that. But, dating my El Salvadoran girlfriend, she is very much has traditional values. She understands kind of like gender roles. She's okay with letting the man lead. And so it's been awesome to experience that. It's been something different that I didn't experience in the States.
Right. Okay. So it's a more traditional roles. Now, I grew up in the 70s, 60s to 70s. So in that time, the Vietnam War was raging, and so we had social revolution in the United States. We had the feminist movement. We had gay rights movement. We had Black Power. We had civil rights movement, and liberalism. And then we were on this 50-year trajectory away from Dwight Eisenhower, away from Richard Nixon, away from conservatism, away from Ozzie and Harriet, away from Norman Rockwell, and toward a rock and roll, highly sexualized era that was characterized that epoch in American history to the point of wokeism, which is an extreme version of this, right? And it seems as though that has now exhausted itself, and there's a pendulum swing back to what's called traditional values or conservative values. And you're here in El Salvador, you have found already that mindset is in place.
Yeah, so, I mean, I would say so, right? I don't have to worry about my girlfriend, who I think is going to be my wife, trying to turn our, child, whether it's a boy into a girl or a girl into a boy. So I would just leave it at that.
The reason I bring it up is that a lot of people, a lot of families who move here, I'm saying that they are really fed up. I mean, I'm just kind of putting my journalist hat here. I'm not making a social commentary so much. It's just what I'm observing. And families have said that the trend in the United States toward gender reassignment or gender confusion or gender, these types of questions have completely alienated them from their own country. And they've coming here, and it's I think 60 or 70% Christian, 20% evangelical. So it's a more traditional place, and this has attracted a lot of families. This is a very family-friendly place, I guess is my question. Is that true? Would you agree? You have your family here, Jordan.
That's why we are so gung-ho about moving here. I know that family cohesion is valued and it's really important here. I would argue it's a crucial part of the social fabric here, which I can't say the same for the United States these days. Maybe pockets of it, but where I was, it seemed to just be slipping apart. And that's something I never even observed or cared about before I had kids. And then suddenly I have kids. I don't call myself a Christian. I grew up as a Christian, but now I realize, wow, these are all the same values. This whole moral framework comes from this thing that, the ramp up of wokeism over the last 15 years brainwashed me into thinking was bad, or that it was old and it wasn't good. And now I realize, wait a minute, that's what kept our society together, our civilization together for 2,000 years. There's got to be something there. And so being here in El Salvador, it's given me a chance to actually see from the ground floor, because El Salvador's been closed off from the world for decades now. I mean, now it's opening up again, but they didn't have to go through that little brainwashing period, if you will, that the United States went through, that my generation went through. And there's those Christian conservative values, moral framework here that is still in place in society. So we can start seeing, okay, this seems to be the right framework to build upon. That makes sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, I'm not, I'm just trying to give a sense of the trends, the demographic trends, and some of the historical trends that I'm a boomer, I'm going to be 65 years old in a couple of weeks. So I have seen a number of decades come and go and seen these trends kind of come and go. So these values are coming back, and El Salvador is already kind of living these values. And that's a big part of the attraction for families coming here to experience those family values. And I think they're in good shape in terms of there's nothing in the zeitgeist that would suggest that they're going to be moving away from those values anytime soon. Is that correct, do you think?
Yeah, I think so, and I think the adoption of Bitcoin is a big part of that. I think that there's inherent within Bitcoin's architecture is this framework for...
That's the question. Is the Bitcoin architecture more in tune with these types of values? That's my question. Michael Ruiz, what do you think?
Yes. So the short answer to that is yes. But I think just in general, Bitcoin naturally forces us to think long term. And when you think long term, right, I think that you actually have to work through the logic of things. And when you apply logic to thinking, I don't think it leads to wokeism.
Okay, Jordan, your
I
thoughts.
also think Bukele has been pretty vocal about this as well.
The president.
Yeah.
Bukele's been saying public, he's not into this woke stuff at all.
Yeah, and from what I hear, I think it was before we came here, but I think the beer Pilsner tried to do a rainbow campaign and it failed miserably. And I believe kind of just like the free market has spoken here as well. Now, I don't have the evidence for that. It's just what I've heard.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. They are very much into this more family value stuff, and they see it as the bedrock of the society, as I understand it. I don't want to put words into the mouths of the hosts the people who are hosting me here, I'm not Salvadoran. I mean, I'm a guest still at this point, so I don't want to speak for the country. But that's my observation as well. And so, therefore, it's positioned to do well as the screw turns, and we are now in a different era with different values. El Salvador, Bitcoin plus traditional values, seems like they're in a good place.
That's right. Yeah, I think that El Salvador's future is bright, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're trying to help build it out. You know, we took kind of your signal and your cue, Max, and also Bukele. He called for the best and brightest minds. Not that I would consider myself one of those people, but at least we could help bring them here. So that's what I thought, and I was like, you know, if the world is needing a revival and a resurgence of a renaissance, then like let's try to be a part of it. I can't think of a better life mission than to be down here and be part of this whole movement that's happening.
All right, Jordan, last
I
word.
just want to say, I just like how the future is unwritten here. It's like we've lived there. We can take what works, what we like, and now we're living here. We can see what's available, and the future's unwritten. We can see where it goes, and not have to be attached to a certain outcome, but just a feeling. Like I said, we came here on a feeling, and we can continue on with that feeling. And for as long as it feels good, it makes sense to be here, to build here, to encourage others to come here. And if one day that changes, then we'll see what happens. But for now, it feels great.
I'll just see if there's any questions in the audience for these gentlemen. Happy to take them. Any questions?
Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay.
Well, I will say this. If you're thinking about El Salvador either as to relocate or as a plan B, I highly recommend it. And if you want to talk to us, we'll be happy to talk to you about our journey and point you in the right direction.
Excellent. Round of applause.
Thanks.
Sovereignty Studios.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Max, can I ask you something? What do you think? We came in here kind of guns blazing. And, we took your cue. You said, hey, we want 10,000 Bitcoiners to come down.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on how we came down here and the mission that we're on? And do you want to see other Bitcoiners do that as well?
What's my perspective on your...
Yeah, just coming down here, creating the media that we created, trying to showcase the country, trying to support your mission. From what I hear, it's to bring 10,000 Bitcoiners down to Bitcoin country.
Well, we've been on the road for almost the 20 years we've been together, Max and Stacy. We've lived in countries around the world, visited countries around the world. And the thing that you must have when you show up in a country is you must have the right attitude, and you must be humble because it's not your country. Yeah, so, and you guys, immediately I saw you were really humble and open and just like willing to, be proper, just there and here in the country, and not make the mistake many people make when I see Americans particularly travel abroad. They kind of like tell people like how to do what they're, you don't know how to do what you're doing. Yeah. And that's a very American attitude you see all over the world. And this is unfortunate because it doesn't help you. You immediately ostracize yourself. Yep. You have to assimilate. You have to really like know what's going on and observe what's going on and how people are interacting, and make sure you're not, insulting anybody. And it's like a good first lesson, how to not be insulting to people. Just listen. You have to, and listening is a great skill. And it's a skill that is underutilized by most people, and it's a skill that you absolutely must have when you are traveling and in different cultures and different societies. You must listen to what's happening, and you cannot impose your view, because your view is, you find out, is very, very narrow in the global sense. And so that has to be expanded. So I saw with you guys, you're like, yeah, you guys are just open to ideas and stuff. So I was just immediately felt very comfortable talking to you, and I feel like you're on that path too, and you're doing great stuff.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I mean, that was moving to a new country. It's exactly that. Like, you don't want to step on anyone's toes. You don't want to impose your will on anyone. And so, yeah, coming down here and just trying to be a positive force and trying to assimilate as much as possible was kind of like the goal too. You know.
El Salvador has something we want,
Yes.
right? That's why we're here. It's not that they need us. It's just that we need them. And so that's the position that we're in. Thanks so much. All right, Michael Ruiz. Anybody else? Where's my producer, Frida? She's usually cueing me. Let's see. Oh, here's a guy. There's a guy. Step right up. Okay. We just met about an hour ago. Have a seat.
Hello, we did. I'm going to get comfortable here. I just wore my ridiculous hat.
Introduce yourself to the crowd.
My name's Sam Honold. I'm a political dissident and a refugee. My website is gospelgunslingers.com. I am a real pastor. In fact, what I have some questions about
Yeah.
is the
Oh, this will be
religious
fun. You brought a
implications.
Bible.
Yeah, and look at that. They just redid it in Salvador in leather.
Oh, wow.
$25. Take a look.
Okay, so you're a pastor.
Yes, I have an international shortwave show.
Yeah?
I teach on the revolutionary doctrines of self-defense and self-government.
This is the New Testament.
It's the whole deal,
It's the whole-
shebang in Spanish.
Okay. And and that's your primary journey in life is as a pastor.
I wear a lot of hats.
You're a religious man. What is it? Gunslingers for
GospelGunslingers.com.
Okay.
And so we're gunfighters, and we love the Lord.
Right.
And we're whiskey drinking and cigar smoking preachers.
right?
Woo! I think you got some of our cigars, our Salvadoran stock.
These are your cigars.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Well, they're yours now. I gave
They're
those
mine.
to you.
This is not incongruous to be a cigar-smoking, whiskey-toting, gun-slinging gospel.
Not at all. What is
Preacher?
incongruous
What?
is the heresy of Christian pacifism, and so we just
Christian
confront
pacifism.
that.
Okay.
We just confront that everywhere.
What is Christian pacifism?
Oh, it's the whole lisping idea that we're supposed to let everybody walk all over us, that we're not supposed to defend our women and our children and have free money,
Right?
and build our own governments that work for us and not the other way around.
Right.
And so that's what I teach on. That's what I teach on. And the
Right.
Bible's been mistaught from the other perspective, that pacifism is the central point of the Bible. That book is full of war stories.
Where do you preach mostly? Are you geographically centered?
Little jungle churches. I'm a jungle preacher and a street preacher.
Oh, okay. So like Jim Jones.
Well, that's what
Is
they
there
say
any
about
Kool-Aid to
you,
drink?
Max.
If
That's
there's
what
any
they say
Kool-Aid, I
about
don't
you.
want any.
Now, you want it, yes, since you bring it up, I want you to respond.
I'm responding.
To the people who say that Bitcoin is the new Scientology, that there's this cult, that these people are way too happy. And they say that about us charismatic preachers, too.
Right.
But what's your response to that accusation? Because it's out there.
Well, people say Bitcoin's a cult.
That's right. That's what they say.
Right. So it's provably and demonstrably not a cult.
And you're too good looking. And
Well,
Stacy's too
okay,
good looking.
that's also true. But in a cult, it's first of all, cults are easy to join and hard to leave.
Good point.
Right? With Bitcoin, it is easy to join and easy to leave. Right? It's
Excellent.
anyone can join, anyone can leave. We're not trying to keep anybody like a Scientology. You hear the stories about the horror stories. People can't leave, or any cult. You're in there and you're kind of locked in. Also, in a cult, it's centered around a very visible, a very identifiable, by definition, called a cult leader, like a Jim Jones or the Hale-Bot Comet guy. Or any
I
of these
wanted to
people.
ask about Hale-Bot, but they would
Right?
say that that's you, and they would say that
No,
that's
no.
Nayib Bukele.
No,
And
no.
I
So
think-
I'm saying that if you were to remove that personality or entity from the organization, it would collapse. Okay, so without the cult leader, the cult collapse. And in Bitcoin, there is nobody who rises to that status. I can disappear, and anyone who's in the Bitcoin community can disappear at any moment, and it has zero impact on what's happening in the protocol. So on those 2 points alone, I would say Bitcoin disqualifies itself as a cult.
It's decentralized.
It's
and that's for
decentralized.
sure. Now, the focus on technology and space is where the Raelian and the Hale-Bopp connection.
Wait, don't I get an agreement? Can't you say, like, you're right, Max, you've disproven this idea that Bitcoin's a cult. You seem to be glossing over that and moving on to something else. I want my recognition.
That was a very
and
good point. And
2 points.
You know,
I get 2 points.
If we were
okay?
to smoke a
Okay,
blunt
I am
together,
the priest,
we
the
could
high
both
priest of Bitcoin.
mellow
I am the bishop of
tremendously.
Bitcoin. I speak for Satoshi here on planet Earth, and I claim apostate, heretic. I have that
invite-
power, but I won't. I
We-
won't make that accusation yet. But
We
you've got
invite-
some talking to do, son. You've got to
Over
show
a
me and
blunt.
tell me right
Over
now
a
that we're
blunt.
on the right path and the vector into Bitcoin singularity. And this
That-
is not just some digression into the weeds of distraction.
Allow me to concur. Nayib Bukele, it's true, he is the #1 most approved president in the world, but over a very small nation. This nation is the size of Vermont. I showed the Salvadorans a map of the U.S. with the state of Vermont illuminated, and they were in shock at how large the U.S. is and how small this nation is. And so you're right. Here
Well,
is-
size has nothing to do about it. With how much plutonium does it take to blow up Japan? Less than a pinky's worth. Size is just about a potency. It's about what's in the size. How big is a black hole? You could put a black hole inside a Chevy. It could blow up the universe. Okay, size has nothing to do with it.
It's
about
antimatter.
being with or without the vector. It's about being on the vector or off the vector. If you're not on the vector, you're off the vector, and therefore you're nobody. If you're on the vector, you're somebody, and you're heading into the Bitcoin singularity, which is the Satoshi consciousness where we all become one with the protocol. That's where we're headed. Now, where's that in the Bible? Okay, I can tell you where it's in the Bible. It says it right there. The road gets narrower. Okay, that is the halving. It's a reference to the Bitcoin halving because every 4 years it gets cut in half. That's
and
the road
few find
narrowing.
it.
That's what it
And
says right
few
there in the
find it.
Bible.
Says the gate to life is narrow and few find it.
That's right.
But I agree
That's
with
totally
you.
overlaps.
I agree with you that if Bukele was no longer part of the equation, that Bitcoin would go on. So that's
100%.
that's
That's
a very
100%.
valid
It's
point
not-
that
he's
there's
not
not one
key
leader.
to it.
In fact, the mythical Satoshi may or may not even be a real person.
That's
and
right.
so they, whoever it was that played the role of Satoshi, they remained anonymous just to deprive the world of a leader that then people could lionize and deify.
But the Holy Ghost doesn't have a corporal physical presence, and yet is part of the Holy Trinity.
You got that
God,
going
the
for
Son,
you.
and the Holy Ghost.
No, on Hale-Bopp.
Satoshi is the Holy Ghost.
Some would say that,
And God and the Son all rolled up into one. It's a
that there's a
threefer.
technological second coming that the Bitcoin community believes in, and that makes it a Hale-Boppish and Raelian community.
What if I told you that the second coming's already here? It happened on January 3rd, 2009. And that is the second coming. And Bitcoin is God. And that we're all Jesus.
What is the
What if I told you that
significance-
we're all now part of the singular consciousness that is the Bitcoin protocol, that is perfect money, that means the monetization of the collective unconscious, that makes us one with ourselves as we birth our new iterations in the kingdom of perfect money?
I'm definitely going to play that on my worldwide radio show. That was a fantastic tirade, and I am recording for that purpose.
But you won't give me accreditation. Just like Michael Saylor. Everything he says, he stole from me, and I never get accreditation.
Oh, you'll get the credit for it. Along that line,
Yeah.
what's the significance of the release of Bitcoin on Martin Luther Day? The day that Martin Luther started the worldwide Reformation 500 years ago, which began free government, began England as the first Protestant nation, and the United States, and eventually the freedom of all Latin America. I think that Satoshi very intentionally chose Martin Luther Day as the release date. What do you say about that?
Could be. I haven't thought a lot about it, but I mean, that sounds like a very passionate idea. I can get down with that. I want to ask you something. The idea, you guys are guns and what? How did you say it?
Gospel Gunslingers.
Okay, gospel gunslingers. So with Bitcoin, it demonetizes violence in a way that makes gun ownership almost obsolete. And I can speak on that a little bit if you're curious. Because Can I get
there,
a yeah?
there will become a new world where weapons, the Bible says, will pass away, that they'll be beaten into instruments for pruning and for cultivation in the new millennium. However, until we arrive at that place, there's a lot of gunfighting that needs to take place. And there's a lot of people still coming for
Fair
our
enough,
children.
but let's talk about Bitcoin for a second, because unlike any other form of property that's ever existed before, that has some attributes that are unique in human history. One of those attributes is that it's unconfiscatable. And therefore, the whole human history of using violence to appropriate somebody else's property becomes moot. If my seed phrase is in a multi-sig wallet and I myself don't even have access to it, what sense does it make to hold me hostage and try to extract something that I myself have no access to? So therefore, it changes the dynamic between human interaction, where you, instead of coming at me with violence, need to come at me with something I want in exchange for Bitcoin. If you want some Bitcoin, you've got to come at me with something I will trade with you for Bitcoin.
Like, for
and
example,
violence doesn't
a
work.
bit blunt,
A bit blunt.
which contains no
Potentially.
cannabis.
Potentially. If I see value enough in it to swap Satoshis, that would be how you increase your Satoshi stack, and it's in a non-violent way. So it's perfect money in that sense, in that it demonetizes violence. And when you demonetize violence, you're also demonetizing fear. And when you're demonetizing fear, you're opening up a huge gap in the human soul, which is filled by one commodity that's even scarcer than Bitcoin, and that is love. Love is the ultimate transmogrifying force. Love is the only way we can change. Love takes us from being merely mortals to being immortals. Love is the path toward salvation. Love is the path of Satoshi, and that's the path of Bitcoin. Can I get a hallelujah?
Let's share,
Can I
the,
get an
let's share the
amen?
love right now.
Can I get an amen? Can I
Let's
get a
share the
hallelujah?
love.
Love is the way we're all headed on the Bitcoin protocol. That's why we're all stacking, whether we
Who
know
out
it
there
or
wants
not.
a
Some people
Salvadoran
say,
cigar?
you see, God was up there in heaven looking down thinking, you know, these humans are in a terrible state. They are ruining their own habitat, and they're committing mass suicide. How do I fix them? I'll take their worst vice, and I'll transmogrify it into altruism. I'll turn their greed into altruism. I'll get them stacking sats, mining stats, hoarding sats, and in the process, they will get rid of the biggest devil on planet Earth, and that is fiat money. Fiat money will be demonetized, replaced by Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is love. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Do you understand the kingdom of heaven is guarded by Bitcoin? If you don't think you can't use Bitcoin in the afterlife, you are wrong, because St. Peter only takes Bitcoin into heaven.
Now you're being silly.
Silly today, serious tomorrow. They told me I was silly buying Bitcoin at $1.
Some
Who's
very good
laughing
point.
now?
We're going to share the
Bitcoin,
love.
that
Tell me.
magic internet money, that's bullshit.
I want to know. Let's ask the audience. Are there anybody out there want a Salvadoran cigar? Step up, step up, step up. In fact, you're going to be in
Cigar.
charge of passing these out. These are Bit Blunts, handmade in El Salvador. Max has a few too. Now, this is a humid jar. You have to keep the lid on it.
Oh, right.
Unless you're in the jungle where they're made.
Right.
And this is just something that we're having some fun with, to share the love a little bit with the world. You know, what I like about the Bitcoin community, having hung out for just a short while, is how much giving is a part of it. If you look on the Gospel Gunslingers Twitter,
Yeah.
there's a girl that got burned in a kitchen accident, and they're raising funds for her. You could kick in a few sats, and that's happening right here today. One of these kids, of one of the employees, of somebody who came in to improve this nation, is hurt, and a lot of people in the Bitcoin community are helping that. A lot more, I gotta say, than in the Christian community where I've spent many years.
Hallelujah.
Phariseeism
Hallelujah.
is very, very stingy.
Yeah, you know, it's that's part of the love matrix. And when you eliminate fear, which is the greatest obstacle we all face, and its many, many manifestations, and most of it doesn't exist. Most of it is all made up in our minds.
I do want to confront you on one point.
Yeah.
I believe that El Salvador does need the warriors of the world to unite.
Okay.
I believe there is a necessity for a gathering of the eagles here. I believe that if someone comes to this nation and asks for the privileges of citizenship, which I have done, I asked President Bukele, and the Vice President was here today, Dr. Ulloa,
Yeah.
el genio en pos del genio, the genius behind the genius, and I asked him, I said, I would like the first of the 5,000 passports
All right.
that President Bukele offered to the world, and here's why.
Why?
Because,
Why?
Because we have deberes. We have duties that come along with citizenship.
Right.
These nations will accept us, and we will have the privileges of citizenship or residency or whatever. But along with that, there are duties. We have a responsibility to the nation and the flag.
I hear you. Low time preference.
I hope everybody picks that up.
Brother, thank you. This turned out to be a lot of fun, and I think spiritually very interesting for the people as well. So thank you so much. Thank
Thank you, Max.
Round of
God
applause. Let's hear it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. John Mayer.
Yeah, on the beach. How you doing? Yeah, I figured you might need a little bit after.
All right. We continue. Everyone having fun? Fun. All right. Next guest. Introduce yourself. Is that on?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Who are you?
Howdy, everybody. My name is John Mayer, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to play golf all the time as my career. So it's a pleasure to be here, have a little bit of fun when playing, and not stressing about making birdies and limiting bogeys.
So you played the whole round today.
Yeah, we made it through the whole round.
And what was your score?
I think as a team, we shot a couple over, which
2 over par.
that is specific.
And
Maybe I'm more than that.
what will be the winning score in your opinion?
I was asked that earlier, and I said something like 12 or 13. I think I said 12.
12 under par.
That's what my guess was.
Wow, that's the most aggressive I've heard all day.
Well, normally in a scramble, people can really take it deep, but this course is unique, kind of quirky, some blind shots. You got the difficulty adjustment, weird formats. So
Yeah. You said you had the honor or privilege of being able to play golf every day, all day. Why is that? Are you a professional golfer? No.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think golf is a luxury, and to be out in the sun, moving the body, laughing with friends, learning from. I started as a caddy, so you're working for businessmen. You learn what it takes to succeed in life. It's just a privilege,
Okay.
I could be stuck in an office with scoliosis and drinking Diet Coke all day, and instead I'm out in the sun
I
playing
mean,
golf.
you have like Bitcoin fuck you money, and you're just like, fuck everybody, I'm going to play golf? Or you inherited the John Paul Getty fortune? Or what's
Not
going on
quite.
here?
I wish. It's kind of a unique route. A lot of people get orange pilled, and I have a question for you. I'll lead into it. But
Why is everyone asking me a question? I'm doing the asking of the questions, okay? I'm asking the questions. Let's stop.
right.
We'll put a line in it right now.
All right,
I'm asking the questions.
I'll answer you first. My journey was kind of weird. I wanted to play golf, and I knew that in order to fund myself in the beginning, starting right out of college, I would need to make some money. And so I started in like the stock market, which I knew a little bit, and trading some options, and realized that was more gambling and degeneracy than anything. And after a bad loss, I was like, screw this. Like, what the heck? And threw it all into Bitcoin because I thought that was going to be the next whatever thing. And sure enough, I got all this money in there. I'm like, well, I better learn what the heck I just put my money into. And then I fell down the rabbit hole. Then you reach out to people. Then you start reading books. And sure enough, I kind of forced myself into the Bitcoin space. And now my question for you is...
I didn't hear a job mentioned in all that. Like, was I ever working? Like, I was a lawyer for 20 years. And no, I was a brain surgeon. No, I was an actuarial. I was a property developer. These are jobs. I didn't hear any jobs. You're just saying... I happen. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, where'd you go through? Did you go through? Are you human? Who are
I think
you?
so.
Where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from near Boston, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. But
Yeah.
I went to school and then kind of wanted to be in golf, and so I would give lessons, teach little kids golf, and made my route that way. But then realized that pursuing it at a high level is what I wanted to do. But
Okay, so you're just kind of rambling around.
yeah, and
Yeah,
there's an
and-
aspiration. There's a goal. Like we all have a goal to stack a certain amount of
Stack
Bitcoin.
sats.
Yeah, my goal is to play on the highest level of golf.
But you don't feel in
consistently.
any way like you're not contributing to society,
No,
right?
once in a
because
while,
you're
yeah,
like, I'm stacking sats, and that is contributing to society.
You think so?
Sure, because you're helping adopt the global Bitcoin standard, and you're retiring Bitcoin in a cold wallet. You're helping the price continue to appreciate against fiat money, and that's all you really need to do.
Well, my question was, I didn't really get orange pilled, so I've tried orange pilling, and I've succeeded. I probably orange pilled, I don't know, 30 or 50 people, nowhere near your numbers, and I've come at it from different angles. And I don't know, what have you found to be the most direct or best way to orange pill? And I'm sure someone else out here could benefit from hearing what do you think is the best way of going about that?
Well, it's all about asking what is money, right?
Yeah.
Just what is money and having that conversation to find out where people are in their thinking. And then to kind of go from there. So, and that usually leads to a discussion about, well, why are prices, going up? And so then you kind of, that would be a starting point for me. What is money? But I find that there are folks that have a bias, or they're ready to hear it, and a lot of people just don't want to hear it, right? So, mostly the people who want to hear it are people who are already showing signs of fiat money fatigue. They're aware that something is wrong, and so when you start to talk about it, it starts to fill in the blanks. They're like, actually, that makes sense. Like what you're saying makes sense. I don't think you can come to somebody, let's say, who's completely wed to the fiat money system and doing well, and convince them that they should quit doing what they're
Yeah,
doing
you're on a
and
need-to-know
go into
basis.
Bitcoin. I mean, they're not gonna do it. But their loss of purchasing power and the complications that are associated with being involved in the fiat money world are not so onerous that they are struggling to figure out how to overcome that in their lives, right? They're certainly, if you're somebody who gets bailed out every single time you make a mistake, like a Jamie Dimon, you're not interested in Bitcoin because no matter what you do, you get rewarded. Every craven crime you commit, the government sends you a check.
Yeah,
Says thank you.
I think Bitcoin rewards good decision making
Right.
and morality, whereas a fiat standard is pretty much the exact opposite, right?
Exactly right. So it becomes a kakistocracy, which is ruled by the worst. It's the opposite of a meritocracy. So Bitcoin is a meritocracy. Fiat money is a kakistocracy, which is it tends to generate the worst behavior, the worst investment decisions, and because there's no penalty for that.
I noticed myself trying to become like a part-time economist or a part-time financial wizard and trying to figure out the markets when I was like, that's not even my specialization. That's not what I'm good at. That's not what I've spent my time pursuing. But we all try to figure out how we can provide for society, and I think that with Bitcoin, it gives us a start, and then we can build our platform around Bitcoin. It gives us something to build on top of.
Right.
And mine's in the golf industry, which is pretty cool.
In the traditional markets, it's so poorly designed that it breeds bad behavior, and those who accumulate a lot of fiat money then can go to Washington and have laws changed to make it easier to accumulate more fiat money. So it's a vicious cycle, and so then you end up with these cartels, and they're extraordinarily destructive and undermine the general common good. And then Bitcoin is fixes that, and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing the transition, the move away to this finite money, perfect money. And so you're basically just a reflection of that. So this Satoshi is shining on you, right?
He shines on all of us.
You're living in orange sunshine. You're living in the orange world. Like you're already in the Bitcoin singularity. You're looking at me like I'm a weirdo because you're already
We're
living
all weirdos,
completely
but
in orange
here in El
consciousness.
Salvador, we can all be weirdos together, which is pretty
right,
cool.
because we're in the orange consciousness, and there's a very seamlessness about it. Like we're having the same unconscious mind that we're sharing, which is one of peace.
Yeah, the cool thing I've noticed about being here in El Salvador, it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. The taxi drivers are special. The chefs are special. The people working and providing this experience to all of us are really special, and it's amazing. Beautiful
right.
country with a lot of potential, untapped potential, and I'm sure in the future this is going to be a haven of prosperity, glory, and history. Like I was in a Bitcoin meetup in Boston, and I felt like I was in the Boston Tea Party. It was very revolutionary. You could feel it in your feet, and this is a place just like that.
Do you do any writing?
Yes, I do a lot of writing and reading.
I believe you will be a known writer within 24 months.
Thanks,
I believe
Max.
this. I think this is your destiny, is you will be writing a very popular book.
Well, thank you, my friend. I will
I think that's what I feel from
make
you.
sure I do that.
I'm getting that feeling from this man. He's an artist and a writer. He's just, the words are coming. The words are flowing. And
A lot of thinking, and then
beautiful.
eventually it'll come all out.
Congratulations.
But you
I
guys
see
are
it already.
beautiful. Hope everyone has a good time at the Max and Stacy Invitational.
You can buy his book is already on Amazon. Pre-order the book, okay? And that's how it happens. Perfect. Thank you so much. Round of applause for the famous author to be. It's great, man. Hey, that table looks like? Did you guys win? You look like awfully smug over there, like we just won this fucking thing. No? All right. What's next? Maybe I'll say hello to people. Da, 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 da. Haven't been to this table. You're an awfully nice, beautiful energy. Where are you from?
I'm from Canada originally.
Where?
Canada.
Oh, you're from Canada. Oh, what part?
Thunder Bay.
Where's that?
Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Ontario. Fantastic. This is your first time here? Yes. How are you finding it so far? You do it. All those snowbirds, just forget Miami. Just come on down to El Salvador. Weather's beautiful. How about yourself? Who are you from? You Canada too?
Austin, Texas.
All right. How's that? All right, first time here?
Yes, first Bitcoin event, first time El Salvador.
How are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it. I'm so happy.
Loving it, so happy. Wow, this is a joyful table. How about yourself? You're from?
Another Canadian from Montreal, Quebec.
Another Canadian. Fantastic. So this is the counter table. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year?
I don't know. I don't.
Any guess? The Canadians? The Habs?
Of course, the Habs.
Of course. When was the last time they won? 92 or something? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, because, the Canadian hockey is a little... Okay, fair enough. Well, okay. Where's Frida? Frida, do I have more guests? All right. How's everybody doing? You ready for the next guest? Come on. Come on aboard. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Step right up. How you doing? Fantastic. Grab a microphone. Is it on?
Is it on? There we go.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name's Cherokee Olarte, but I go by Mopar Mining. That's what most people know me. I'm part of Crypto Cloaks. We do 3D printing. We see a lot of correlation between 3D printing and Bitcoin because it's self-sovereignty. I mean, if you could 3D print...
All right, hold on. So your name is...
Cherokee.
Cherokee?
Yes, sir.
Cherokee, like the nation. Cherokee
Yes.
Nation.
You
That's your
wanna
name.
see my ID? You want
No,
card
no, no. I take your word for it. And it says Bitcoin veterans. Were you at the Nashville event with Bitcoin veterans?
I'm not a veteran. I'm a veteran of Bitcoin.
You're a Bitcoin veteran. Okay. And you're part of Crypto Cloaks.
Cloaks, yes.
Well, so Crypto Cloaks do the 3D printing. They did the T markers. They do the grenades. They do all the 3D printing that's people love and the swag. And do you work with them directly? You're part of that
I
organization?
work for Rick. Yes, I'm one of his partners.
You want to Rick. And where are they located?
We have 2 people in Colorado, 1 in California, and then I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So you're here. You're a sponsor. Thank you so much for that. You know, we love.
Thank you for having us.
We love Crypto Cloaks. And so, what's your message that you wanted to say?
Well, that's what I was saying. We see a correlation between Bitcoin and 3D printing because both are about being
Speak
sovereign.
into the microphone.
Both are about being sovereign.
That's better.
Right?
Okay, they both are about being
Sovereign, right? Because
soft?
sovereign.
Oh, sovereign. I'm sorry.
Sovereign.
Okay, go ahead. Don't mean to interrupt. Continue.
Because if you need something, you can print it. If you think it, you can imagine it, you can print it, right? So Rick started off, he had a ledger, and he didn't like it laying on his desk, so he printed a 3D mount, stuck it underneath the desk, right? Put it on Etsy, sold a few hundred. Then someone's like, can you make them for the Trezor? Can you make them for various different wallets? And then eventually it just grew from there. He was contacted to make the Bitcoin grenade for Bitcoin conference in Vietnam. And we just continue to grow. We make shrouds for like ASIC manufacturers that want to vent their heat. Yes, we made those. And that want to vent the heat out from the building. It allows them to connect to the miners. We have people that use...
Oh, the shroud.
Yeah, the
Right.
shrouds.
So you put your
they
miner
connect
in
it to
this
their,
thing. and
ventilation
it
system.
Takes the
around.
heat away.
Or can direct it into
Direct
their
it.
HVAC.
Okay.
So they heat their house
Right.
with it. Or
Okay.
we have a guy that he did his whole driveway. He heats his whole driveway with it. So
Right.
he got 6 inches of snow and a clean driveway. Or you see people using miners to heat their jacuzzis or their swimming pools. It's not as profitable. In fact, most of the time it's not at all. But it mitigates the expense. You still get Bitcoin. You stack it. You hodl it. You let it go. Let it grow, right? We use that analogy a lot for our heaters. If you heat your house with a space heater, pay $100 a month to heat it, what do you get? You get a bill. That's it. Use ours, you mine Bitcoin, you might make $30 in Bitcoin if you throw it in a pool. It mitigates the expense. You stack the sats, just let it go, right? There's a lot of uses for 3D printing. I mean, we do little jigs that help people stamp their seed phrases, right? They got some of them over there.
Little kits that allow for people to stamp
Their seed phrases
seed
into
phrases.
washers.
The washers.
Yes.
But those aren't 3D printed.
No, the washers aren't, but the jigs are.
What, the jigs?
Yeah, it's a little jig. Like, you got slots to do like the number, word 1, 0, 1, and then you do the first like 8
Okay,
letters.
so when you're
makes it nice
you're
and neat.
hammering the word into the washer.
Yes.
Okay,
So like
and
if you,
you
just
need-
laid it down and hit it, 9 out of 10 times the washer goes flying.
Yeah.
You got to go find it. The jig holds it in place.
Okay.
Keeps it even, nice and uniform.
Right.
It's simple things. 90%
Okay.
of what we do is somebody saying, "Can you print this?
Right.
Can you make this?"
Right.
Like you guys, can we make the T markers, right?
T markers.
Yeah. And then we also did golf tees. I don't know, Chris and Frida, we gave them to them.
Right.
And they wanted the chains for the dinner.
Right.
Anything like that. People want something. I mean, like I said, we do 99% Bitcoin, but we do get contacted to do custom things.
Right.
So, but one of our other guys, he had a piece break and on his bed. Couldn't find it anywhere. Scanned it with a 3D scanner, 3D printed it. 5 years later, it's still on his bed. Works.
What is it?
It's just a piece to hold, the piece that holds the bed frame up. It broke. He didn't want to buy a whole new bed, right? And he couldn't find this fucking thing anywhere. Oh, sorry, kids. But he couldn't find it anywhere, but he could scan it,
Right.
3D print
So you
it.
3D
replace it.
printed it.
I used it for hinges because I was buying stainless steel hinges every 2 years because they rusted.
Right.
I 3D printed them out
Right.
of carbon fiber. 5 years later, they're still there.
Right. Right.
It gives you the sovereignty to be able to print what you need. Everybody
gives
should
you
have
the
one.
sovereignty to print what you need. Right.
And so we print Bitcoin stuff
Right.
for Bitcoiners.
Right.
And we sell it for Bitcoin.
Right, right. And it's grown a lot. I think the business has grown a lot because the branding and the choice of the things that you produce has really resonated with the Bitcoin community. I know that Bitcoin grenades I love those things and I always have them. And
Just remember to take them apart at the airport.
Except, I went to the airport when I didn't take it apart and I got stopped, so my luggage is going through the scanner and it shows a grenade. So they stopped me, I think, obviously, and
I had
wanted
to bring
know
you 2 new ones down to Fort Lauderdale.
while I was carrying grenades. It's like, well, I'm a Bitcoiner. Of course I have grenades. But I was able to retrieve my Bitcoin grenade.
Oh, they did give it back.
The next day, I got it back. Yeah, but it was
Oh,
like
but you had
3
to
in the
wait.
morning, and I wasn't in the mood.
I thought they threw it away.
to discuss this. I wanted to get on my flight, so they thought the grenade was volatile until I started in on making my views known to the folks at the
Your
airport.
typical Max fashion.
They weren't too happy about that. I had to call my lawyers at Arias to bail me out again.
That
It
was one of the three?
One of the times ended up, facing charges. So they helped me out with their services. And they get a good rate too. Good rate. So Crypto Cloaks, and what can we look for in 2025 from Crypto Cloaks?
Well, I don't know. I asked my boss to give me some future projects. He's kind of hush hush. But I mean, we just had our highest quarter ever last quarter.
Oh, really?
We sold, I believe it is 700 or 800 bit axes for Fold. They started their own like mining thing. So if people bought one of them, they got Fold Plus for a year, and they got to join the pool, and Fold paid the electric for it. And then,
But you don't make bit axes.
No. We did. We make the whole things. Well, we do source part of it. Yes, we did the 3D printing. We bought the boards. We assembled them. We shipped them out complete.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Bit
then,
axes
we
is
just
a
did,
Crypto Cloaks product?
In 3 days, we did 1,000 of the BitAxe Gammas, the new version.
Fantastic. I had no idea. That's a very popular. Does everyone have a bit axe they're playing around with?
All
Did you
the
know that
small
Crypto
miners.
Cloaks was the manufacturer? He didn't know that. Is it? Is he telling
Well,
the truth?
We don't manufacture
You
the
sound
boards.
like you're
we buy
making
the
this stuff
boards.
up. I mean,
we
I can't-
assemble them with the 3D parts we print. So we have to buy the circuit board, the PCB. We
Yeah.
have to buy that. One of our suppliers is actually the guy, maybe people might know, Gecko Science. They used to make miners. They made like the R606, the Terminus miners, little home miners. They make the boards that we recently are using for the Gammas.
What were you doing before you got into this Bitcoin stuff?
I did car shows. I ran a car club in Florida.
Car?
That's why the name Mopar came.
Oh, car
shows.
shows.
I ran a car club. We used to do shows at like Don Garlett's, and that's how I spent my free time. COVID killed that. And then I got back into Bitcoin because I used to mine in 2010. Got out near the end of 11, beginning of 12, getting too expensive to mine.
Right.
I didn't have a total understanding or respect for Bitcoin. And then in 17, I jumped back in.
Right.
Bought $10,000 worth of miners, started mining, and
Right.
now I think I'm pushing 3/4 of a petahash.
What is your impression of El Salvador?
I love it so far.
Okay.
The weather's very similar to Florida, less humidity. I'm not sweating like a pig, but I walked downtown San Salvador the other
Yeah.
day,
Mhm.
about 10, 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
for about 3 miles. Walked all around, no problems.
No problems.
Anybody I ran into was nice. Everybody said hello. I mean, I don't speak Spanish, but
Right.
everybody's.
Well, you live in Miami.
No, well, I'm south of that, or north of that,
Okay.
Tampa area.
Okay.
But everybody was polite. Everybody was nice. I didn't have any problems or trouble. I couldn't do that in Miami.
Not at all.
But it's very nice. I do want to come back.
Well, you're welcome to come back. Any questions for the legend? Any questions? How long are you here for?
I leave tomorrow morning at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.?
Yeah, they just changed my flight.
Don't take any of the plastic grenades on the flight.
If I do, I'll take them apart.
Take them apart. That's my tip. That's my pro tip. And so, Crypto Cloaks, what's the web address?
CryptoCloaks.com.
Perfect. Round of applause. Yes.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, man. That's cool.
Question request from someone said to give it to you.
Okay. Let me get my water. I have a question request. Do 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 do. I see. The answer is 7. Okay. I'm going to take a little break. Check in with folks. Are you coming up next? Yeah, you. Maybe. Yeah, I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be back. I guess we'll do a little musical interlude.
Don't go away.